Which is about factors associated with refugee mental health and the use of services. Oh, I don't have slides. Okay.
Show the slides. Switch the slide screen.
Oh.
Just let it roll.
Before we start, I would like to give a definition of what a refugee is. According to the UNHCR, a refugee is an individual forced to leave his or her country due to violence, war, persecution based on religion, race, nationality, political stance, and or membership in a group. What we see happening now is a continual increase in refugee populations. The latest figures show an estimated of 16.7 million refugees around the world. With this comes all the migration that the United States takes. The United States has admitted over 70,000 refugees in 2013 alone. The same figures are expected to get here in the year of 2015. Research shows that with this increase and all the refugee experiences, they are more prone to have mental health issues. With this high level of need, with this having all these refugees coming in, there is a high level of need for low level of services. The purpose of my research is to understand. Can slide that? Okay. Is to have a better understanding of the factors and moderators that impact refugee mental health and the use of services. This study will inform practice and policy, practice in the adaptation of services according to age if needed, and in terms of policy will be for funding purposes. I have 3 research questions. These are older refugees more likely to use clinical services? Do older refugees show more mood and anxiety symptoms than younger refugees? And the third one is to be investigated, and it states, are older refugees with mental health symptoms more likely to use clinical services than younger refugees?
Mention that it's a moderator, right?
Okay.
You're examining the moderating impact of mental health on use of services. Because you said the purpose is to look at factors and moderators.
Yeah.
So you should say that that's your moderator.
Okay. My theoretical framework focuses on the theory of resilience, which addresses the strengths that people demonstrate, and this enables them to rise above adversity. The hope is that protective factors can buffer the impact of risk factors. Refugees do have many risk factors, and what we're hoping is that the use of services and the services provided to them can serve as protective factors for to address their mental health needs. When trying to when looking for a theory that best explained my primary interest, which is age, we found that Erikson's theory of development was the best suited to that, since it measures the development in stages and how it impacts how crisis impacts impacts individuals different depending on what stage they're at. On the lit review, it shows age to be inconclusive. Some say that older are more vulnerable to mental health issues. Others say there are youngers who are more likely to have mental health issues. In terms of gender, it is female who are more likely to suffer from mental health. In the country of origin, it depends on the research and what population was focused on. There is extensive research focused on Iraqi populations. In terms of use of services, young individuals are less likely to use services, female are less likely to use services, and the country of origin again depends on the research, but it seems like Sudanese and Bhutanese are the ones less likely to use services. There's several research looking at the moderating relationship of several factors. There is one that got me interested that I looked at trauma, post-migration, living difficulties, and social support as predictors of mental health. That's when my third question came in, and it's gonna look at the moderating relationship between mental health, age, and the impact it has on the use of services. My research is a quantitative study. It's based on secondary data previously collected by Refugee One. Refugee One is an agency located in Chicago. It's a resettlement agency that tries to help refugees in their new environment, to adapt to their new environment. My dataset included every refugee enrolled in the mental health program from January 2013 to present. And I do believe that my data is of high quality since information comes from the U.S. Department of State, the UN, an intake interview and mental health screening being done by professionals at the site. My analysis is pretty straightforward. It consists on descriptive analysis and inferential analysis, which includes chi-square tests and regression analysis, which is to be conducted. My key measures included 3 variables. The main one, age, which is a dichotomous variable, looking at the categories that Erickson had, which is young adulthood, and old age. The third category had to be collapsed into the second one because we only had 8 individuals in that category, and the results were not going to be significant. The other variables were gender, which is also binary.
When you say that, saying that there wasn't enough physical power, samples were too small. But this power is what you're saying.
There wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm. There wasn't enough
Statistical power. We only had it.
So we just collapsed.
Okay. The other variables consisted on gender, which was also binary, 1 denoting female, 0 denoting male. And the country of origin, we had the refugees came from 30 plus countries, and we just collapsed everything. Well, we took the countries that had more. How do I explain that? Had the most refugees, which were Iraq, Burma, Bhutan, Somalia, Congo, and other. These are the demographic information of refugees enrolled in the study. The majority of them consisted of female, young, most of them from Iraq. Their primary mental health issue was adjustment, and the majority were enrolled in individual services. My preliminary results showed that mood it's not statistically significant?
So focus on the age,
Okay.
right? There's no difference
There is
between, there's no, yeah, as you can see from the bar graph, there's really no difference between young and old in terms of mood disorder.
okay. As you can see from the graphs, there is no difference between young and old with mood disorders. When running the analysis, our p-value showed that it was not statistically significant. In terms of anxiety, as you can see, the bars are there seem to be a difference between young and old. When we ran the analysis, our p-value showed 0.002, and this translates as older refugees more likely to show anxiety, PTSD symptoms than younger refugees. In terms of adjustment, our p-value also show to be statistically significant, but this time it is the younger population that are more likely to have adjustment issues. So in sum, in looking at age differences in mental health, we see that age does not impact uh, mood. Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
Older refugees are more likely to show anxiety, PTSD symptoms, and younger refugees are more likely to suffer from adjustment issues. In terms of services they've used, we found that it is the younger refugees that are more likely to use individual services. When running our statistical analysis, we found the p-value to be 0.002, which is highly significant. But we were analyzing the group services. As you can see, there is not much difference between the two graphs. And our p-value showed that it was not statistically significant. And looking at psychiatric and individual services, it is older populations that are more likely to use psychiatric and individual services, and that was confirmed through the analysis showing a perfect p-value. And then that. That was too long.
It was about 15 minutes. Over 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
A little bit over. If you had to cut, I think you cut the characteristics of the sample,
Okay.
right? This is sample. Yeah, you don't need to go